So, Philip, tell me, what comics have you been reading lately?
Well, like we were chatting a little bit before, I mostly read Boom Studios books because that's it's part of my homework, and it's homework that I love. It's actually one of the great joys of being in the role that I'm in is I'm often not the first reader, but I am an early reader of the stuff that our creators do. So, um, obviously, I'm a huge fan of that stuff, and we can talk a little bit about that. But also, in 2020, I prior to 2020, a lot of people I think that work in comics are super busy. So, uh, the trips to the comic shop were infrequent. But in 2020, when we went into lockdown here in Los Angeles, and we're all kind of trying to figure out what was going to happen to comic shops at that time. And part of my job was talking to um, fans and talking to our audience and saying, hey, you got to go and support your local comic shop. Frankly, I felt like a little bit of a hypocrite. So it's like I have to start making a point to get back into the comic shop every single week. And I've been doing that for the past, 4+ years, and it's one of my favorite things is walking into the store. This week I haven't made it in yet, but I'm actually going right after we get done recording this. I'm going to walk over to Golden Apple, which is really close by and an awesome store, and pick up books. And But conversely, I have to say I'm probably my comic shop's least favorite type of customer because I walk in every week and I generally am buying any new number one that looks interesting because as somebody who works in comics, I'm always trying to stay abreast of who are the new talents coming in and like what's their perspective and kind of what are they bringing to the marketplace. And so I buy a lot of number ones, and then I'll pick up collections if something really strikes me. But it's probably I'm spending anywhere from $40 to $80 a week just on sampling the market. So that's kind of my approach to comics. But to answer your question, the two series that I have really loved recently, one just I've only read one issue, but I know I'm going to pick up more of is Helen of Wyndhorn by Tom King and Bilquis, and like it's just I read the Supergirl series, thought it was fantastic and brilliant, and the first issue really grabbed me. It's the artwork is stunning. I think it's a little bit of a different type of story for Tom, and so that's really got me hooked. I'm really looking forward to the next issue of that.
Issue 2 was out this week.
Well, then I guess I know one of the things I'm picking up after you and I get done recording. And then the other series that really surprised me and grabbed me is a series from Image called Petrol Head, um, which, if you haven't seen it, it's Rob Williams is the writer, and then Pi Par is the artist. And I'd read some of Rob's work before and enjoyed it. But Pi was like a complete revelation. I was like, who is this artist? This person's phenomenal. And I think if I remember right, they're doing the colors as well as the line art. So it's really kind of a whole package. Um, have you seen this series yet, Petrolhead?
I don't. The name sounds familiar, but I don't think that I paged through it.
So I think I I get the sense that Rob and Pi worked together at like 2000 AD or Rebellion or something like that, and it really has that like British anthology sci-fi feel to it. The concept is there is it's a post-apocalyptic setting in the future where there's this giant city that's basically under a dome because everything outside is horrible and toxic, and the city because everybody's trapped in it uh, that has basically uh, turned into where it's being run by like this AI intelligence, and to entertain the masses to keep them from like going crazy from the fact that they're stuck in this domed city. They He's created these like robot like demolition derby uh, races, and the main character is this kind of retired racing robot named Petrol Head, and the one of the interesting ideas that they introduce is that like because they're robots, they're programmed to race as if they could win every race, but it's all architected by this like AI overlord so that like the good guy always wins, like the hero, the flashy sports guy always wins, and the villain always loses. It's like pro wrestling,
Right.
kind of like it's scripted. Um, and so that's the background for it. But then uh, the story kicks off with this retired racer um, running into this little girl who's the daughter of like a scientist who's figured out something that threatens this whole ecosystem. So he kind of gets pulled in to protect her against his will. So a little bit of Lone Wolf and Cub influence, a little bit of 2000 AD, and the whole thing. I think one of the reasons it really um, I just became enamored with it is it's one of those books where you can tell the creators have so much love and passion for it that from front cover to like the letters column in the back cover, like it's a completely immersive experience. There's like little inside jokes, little asides, there's characters that talk to you, like break the fourth wall and talk to you. So highly recommend it. I don't know if it's a limited series or an ongoing, but I'm enjoying the heck out of it.
Cool. I'll definitely check that out. And that sounds something like right up my alley. I love like a good sci-fi story. Yeah.
And it's just fun, like it's one of those comics where like sometimes you want a comic book to make you think and to like make you feel. Sometimes you just like you want to sit down for 15 minutes and just have fun, and I think that's what this book is. Um, and then I was trying to think of something else recently that I really enjoyed, and what I landed on was this is a couple of years old now, but Kieran Gillen's Eternals run. I mention it because I'm going to confess something. I have zero interest in the Eternals. I never like it was not a Marvel franchise that ever connected with me, and I didn't even like if you had asked me like what is the Eternals, I'm like I don't know that I could explain it. Um, and Kieran came in with Issa Ribic in the way that Kieran does, and like just reframed the whole thing. And in the first issue, there's this very cool kind of conceit that he plants in the Eternals. So I'm gonna spoilers, but it's a couple of years old, so hopefully this won't be a problem for anybody. Um, the conceit is that the Eternals are eternal, obviously, right? They can't die. They get regenerated in these um, like uh, like rebirth matrix, right, where their body gets regenerated and their central kind of like overmind system has a backup of their memories and their personality that gets downloaded into the body, right? So they might lose a little bit of time, but basically they can't die. The idea Kieran introduced, I believe, for the first time is that to make the machine work and balance, every time an Eternal gets regenerated, human beings have to die. And so the main character discovers this and is obviously horrified by it, and then the story goes from there. And the funny thing is, I was thinking back, like why maybe I didn't get into it when I was younger, because um, and I think what it was as a snot nosed kid, my first exposure to the Eternals, I'm looking at it and I'm reading these names and it's like Icarus, but Icarus is spelled wrong, and it's like all these kind of like uh, ancient mythologies being referenced, which Kirby obviously was doing very intentionally. But again, being a snot-nosed kid who was really into Greek and Roman mythology, I was like, this isn't right. This, this is not accurate. Um, Sorry, Jack Kirby. I thought I knew better. Uh, on the Boom side, I am genuinely a monthly reader of and these series I would be buying even if I wasn't working for Boom. Something is Killing the Children. I think, you know, virtually everything James writes is worth reading and checking out, even if it's not your cup of tea. And I think he really has created like an amazing world and characters there. And then Berserker, because it's just like it was so cool to watch Keanu Reeves collaborate with Matt Kent and Ron Garney and create this like character from whole cloth and this essentially endless tapestry that stories can be told. And now watching other people come in and play with it, it's really really fun.
What was the one that I
I Heart Skullcrusher was I think the other one, yeah, which is fantastic. It's like that artist Alessio is just like, man. Sometimes somebody debuts on something, you're like, holy cow, where have you been hiding? You're amazing.
is there anything else from Boom coming up that you're super pumped and want people to know about?
Yeah, there's a book coming out next month called Crocodile Black. It's by Philip Kennedy Johnson and an artist named Som. And it's I guess the best way to describe it is a psychological thriller, kind of uh, a maybe like a Falling Down. That's probably a dated reference,
I love that
but
movie.
it's about a young man who is working as like a food delivery worker and is kind of struggling in life and ends up making a delivery where he finds the body of like a dead man in this chair, um, who seems to have died from mysterious circumstances, and he's wearing these like very distinctive black crocodile boots, like crocodile skin boots. And this guy takes, for whatever reason, decides to take those boots and then kind of like invents or imagines this whole like history behind them that leads him down kind of like a very dark path. And it's set in the backdrop of the pandemic, which I think is like really interesting because everybody was very isolated and kind of disconnected.
And when does that come out?
It's next month on May 8th, so the week after Free Comic Book Day. Beyond that, if folks haven't read The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, I think it's one of the best things that's been published, period, in the industry in the last few years, but definitely one of the things that I tend to recommend to people. Ram V and Felipe Andrade did that, and they have a series they're currently doing called Rare Flavors, where you're if you're a fan of like Neil Gaiman, Vertigo, and food, oddly enough, that's a great series recommendation.
Well, thank you so much, Philip, for taking time out of your busy day. And I hope you still have plenty of time to get to the comic book store when we're done.
I think I do. I think I do. Thanks, man. It was awesome to reconnect. Thanks for reaching out.
That
It's
was
been
my
really fun.
pleasure.